stream. Today we're going to pin a Goliath beetle from Africa. It's an old world tropical beetle. They're found usually in West Cameroon or the sub-Savannas. This is the world's heaviest old world beetle. So there are some things that get a little larger as far as insects go in southern South America, Central America. There's some huge longhorn beetles, but when it comes to the family of scarabs, the true scarab beetles, this is the record-breaking beetle. It is Goliath beetle, or Goliathus goliatus. Let me show you what that looks like here. So I hydrated this one overnight like I usually do. Wrapped up in this thing. I poke some holes in it, make sure everything's nice and saturated. I don't submerge it, of course, but I do leave it in a container for about 13-14 hours. So now there are quite a few of these different species. This one will be white and black. When he's wet, he's going to look all kind of brown like this. But when it dries, it's going to retain this red velvet elytra here on the just above the thorax and abdomen, or below the thorax on the abdomen. And then this will become pretty white and black, and it does feel like velvet, like they're kind of furry almost. This is a male. The discriminating factor there for the dimorphism between males and females of this species is size. Males can get up to 110 or millimeters, or 10 centimeters, a little over. This one's only about 90 to about 9 centimeters, 90 millimeters, and they have these kind of antlers here on their head. Females will have just a nice rounded shovel, kind of like a spade to get into the ground and dig. Males will have this stuff kind of for fighting, and they are a bit bigger. So here's a nice metallic green belly. This is the ventral side. This is known as the dorsal side. And I'm just going to work these legs to make sure he hydrated well. Nice and easy here. Now, what's cool about the Goliath beetle is their larvae are predaceous. So they have grubs, and they live about, let's say a year or so as a grub, and then another couple months as an adult. But while they're in their larval stage, going through the instars, the first, second, third instar, they're predaceous. They like to eat other grubs, other animal material, organic material from anything they can. They kind of will grab other grubs of their own species, larvae of other animals completely. And what makes that important is because they're not an agricultural pest as a larva, they became legal to trade and sell and rear and breed and have as pets in the United States. And since 2016, they worked on getting these guys approved for that because there's no risk of them, getting out in the wild and destroying crops or anything. They're flower beetles as adults. They drink nectar, they look for fruit, they pollinate. They're a true flower beetle, just like a June bug. And then their larvae will just eat other pest bugs. So they're actually not a risk at all. And so in 2016, they worked through the legal necessities to get them approved as like breeding pets. So you can transport them and all that good stuff, which is cool because there's a lot of giant beetles whose larvae would eat any plant material, and so they're not going to get through regulations. But one of the world's largest species of beetle, one of the most docile and nice, just a nice nectarivore, great pet. Doesn't live very long as an adult, but it's nice to see that something like this could be reared in America, because we don't like to have agricultural pests. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and pin this one. I'm going to make sure I can get his wings out as well, so we'll get the full bug spread here. But I just want to continually move these guys around, make sure they're not going to pop or crack. Probably going to hide the middle pair of legs here under the wings. That's just the way that's going to work. The wings on these guys are substantial. They're very powerful flyers. They suck at landing. But they're really cool looking. They're nice big black wings. So I think he's going to be just about ready. So before I do a beetle wings, I kind of move the legs out of the way once I've articulated them a little bit to make sure that they're going to work for pinning. There's a lot of nice movement here. You can actually see the other joint underneath our section that lets them move on this plane. Sometimes that gets really rigid because it's huge, and so the muscles there don't really hydrate very well. But you can get the full rotation here in this one, and so now you can see how he can get a lot of movement just having a joint here, a joint underneath, and a joint here. But I'm going to put these to the side real quick. I'm going to look at this elytra. And so they got a shoulder plate here. I don't know if you guys can see that too well. But this is like, comes over the joint where the wing spreads out. So you want to make sure that's loose. I'm going to put my nail under here and ride it up on the side here. The elytra is really durable, so don't worry about breaking it. And then this little triangle here is where this elytra slides under, and then it will swing out. So I want to get my finger under there and kind of pop it open with respect to how the joint's going to open. So now I got the shoulder here moving. I call it the shoulder, but it's just part of the elytra. So the thorax is going to move down as these move up. So now I got this wing case. A lot of movement in it, which is good. I'm going to try to get that on this side. Again, nice. So he hydrated very well overnight. No complaints. In fact, because it is being so generous on moving up here, I'm actually going to leave them somewhat closed. And I'm just going to pull the wing out, and this is going to look crazy. So the wings are folded in 3 pieces underneath. But if you can open the elytra just enough, see where that black wing is residing. You can get your tweezers in there and just pull that one joint out. Nice like that, nice and easy. So it's folded, and I'll show you that. So the main part of the wing kind of just clips under the elytra, and then the other half of the wing clips under the other half of the wing. So now we have a huge wing popping right out. It's going to look something like that when I get it done. I'm going to let it fold back just a little bit on its own if it needs to. And then I'm going to get the other one out. So this is nice because usually you have to take the elytras all the way up, work this out, maybe even hydrate it again. But this one's being very generous, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the other wing out, leaving the elytra in place. Just slide it out. There we go. It's going to look something like this. So, at the moment, what we have, just for reference, just for fun, is about the better part of this. It's over 7.5-inch wingspan, which, for you metric guys out there, we're talking just under 19.5 centimeters. It's almost 200 millimeters right here just in wingspan, which is double the length of the body. I mean, this guy from head to elytra is probably only 9 centimeters. That's pretty cool. So, he's ready. I'm going to do this. Cat's losing it. I'm going to get the head anchored in. It's usually the first step for these. Get the head in place so it doesn't swing too much. I'm going to make sure that I get at least 1/2 of the legs anchored decently. Here we go, here we go. And then since I have the legs kind of where I want them and the wings where I want them, I can maybe tug on the back legs a little bit to get them to move down. Just to show them off. You know, most of these are kind of short-legged beetles. Nothing like Acrosinus longimanus from South America, who looks like the goal line on a football field. Here we go. Just gonna move the body here a little bit. And then, since these legs are so well, they're just so easy to move this time. Not all beetles give you the generous movement here. I'm actually going to pin them up and out. When the beetles fly, they just kind of let their legs hang and curl them up, and they don't even, they look really awkward when they fly, but they were not going to have their legs out like this when they're flying, but that's okay. I want to show off as much of this beetle as I can because he's pretty cool. Given that, what we want to do is make sure the wings stay up and out and dry, so everything dries exactly where I want it, and that way I don't have any collapsing when I unpin him. When I take the pins off, if he didn't quite dry enough or I didn't put enough pressure to keep it in place, you can see some collapsing. So we're going to get those wings down in a second, but I want to show off some of these feet too. There we go. Sorry if the camera comes in and out of focus. It's a big beetle, takes up a lot of space, so there's a lot of room here. So I have some used butterfly paper here. I've already pinned it, and you can see where the pins are. But for beetle wings, since there's no scales that are going to be rubbed off, they're very durable. I just reuse the old pieces of butterfly paper I pin butterflies with on the beetles. Just waste not. Here we go. I'm going to make obtuse angles towards the thing I'm pinning as much as I can. And then if I need to get closer, I can change it up. But as long as I have the acute angles facing away from the specimen, writing the length of the paper, it will keep that paper down, and then you can move in for more final touches. Again, this paper's used, so the sheets aren't torn or cut for the specimen specifically this time. These were probably on larger butterflies or moths, but it works great. Basically done. Not too bad. Just gonna get a little bit of symmetry here. Make sure everything's out in the open. Prevent some wrinklage if that happens on the wings when they curl up over the next couple of weeks if they dry. Keep the house at a normal temperature, and so 70, 75. So the house does impact the rate in which creatures will dry depending on how many fans you have on and stuff. So I generally give it a week or two. Even if it dries in 3 days and you can unpin it, I leave it out a little bit longer and then just put it back in the freezer if I can't frame it right away. And so what we have here is Goliathus. And other than just a few little tweaks that maybe, I can curl the feet out a little bit. Kind of like him the way he looks. I might maybe tighten this leg down just slightly. Leave these feet out because they're kind of nice. I don't want to forget the antennas. One of the giveaways for this family is flower chafers, flower beetles, June bugs, all those guys, those scarabs. They're going to have cool clubbed antenna. They're not going to have giant segmented antenna, like longhorn beetles. They have these little bitty guys, and they have little clubs. Those clubs open up, and they'll have little paddles, and when they're alive and looking around for fruit or mates and stuff like that, they'll actually have them open. You can kind of see on the left one here that the paddle is a little bit open. And you'll see like little fingers. I don't know if I can get it. They kind of collapse when they dry. But, so. I do want to show off that he's got all of his parts, his clubs, his antennae. I could do a little bit of work here on this leg and this leg to make them look a little bit more the same. Kind of straighten this, maybe raise this part, and then straighten this one out just a bit. But that in a nutshell is how you pin a giant African beetle. This is the newly permitted beetle for pet and rearing in the United States. So there is a really pretty one called Orientalis, so it'd be Goliathus genus, Orientalis species. That is, you know, the white and black zebra right here, but then it continues that coloration, white and black on the base, and I'll probably pin one of those, put them side by side. Generally, the Goliathus can get a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger, but they're almost identical as far as what you would see in the wild is in size. The males are going to be around 80 to 90 millimeters. But there you go. There's the pinning of the giant African flower chafer. And I appreciate you guys stopping in.